Okay, all right. So today we'll be dealing, like I said previously, we'll be dealing on positioning. And like I said, we have five different kinds of positioning. We have static, relative, absolute, fixed, and sticky. All right. So positioning basically just talks about the flow of items, elements on your page, how they flow, and the default positioning is called static. So if you check your index.html, we have a container tag with the h1 tag, which we don't really need, but it should just be there. Then we have these three divs, which all I did was give them a background color and give them a width and a height. Yeah, so that's all we've done. So the flow of the document, like we know, is from top to down. So if I write this tag, I know that okay, this tag is coming first, and then one after, then two, then three. That's the flow of the positioning, the default flow of HTML, and it's called static. Now, relative is basically the same thing because if I, this is what we currently have, this flow here, this is what we currently have. Now, if you, okay, yeah, I'm sharing. So if I, for instance, add a positioning of relative here, let's see if anything will change. So in one, I want to target one and then give it a position of relative. So position relative. And let's check. Let's see if anything changes. So as you can see, nothing changes. So it's almost as if it's still the same thing. And honestly, for the most part, relative and static are basically the same thing. The only difference is that with relative, you can actually move things about, which you can't do with static. So for instance, we targeted this guy here. So if we go here and we say we can use top, left, right, and bottom to move things around. So if I say top, I want your top to be 10 px. Let me see. That's the right. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Uh, or let's try left. Okay. So as you can see, it's moved the div 10 px away from its static position. So now you've changed the kind of positioning from the basic static to relative, and now you can move things around. So that's basically what's happening here, which most times you won't even have to do with relative because it will now become too ambiguous. So most times you don't use relative and then start using your top, bottom, left, right, blah blah blah. No, you don't do that. But it's just something you should know that yeah, that's actually possible, even though we don't do that using relative. So if you use left, you use right, you use top and down. For whatever reason, top did not work the last time I did it. So look at left. All right. So let's try bottom and all of that. It should work. Yeah. So it moved 10. It gave a margin of 10 px away from the bottom, and then top too. I think top worked, but like it's not. I don't know how to like. If I make it bigger now, you would see the difference. Let's see. Let's make it 50, for instance. You see. So it moved, but like because there's nothing on top of it, then you would not see the difference because we moved just a little. But now you can see that there's a difference. So it moved down. It gave a margin of 50 at the top and moved down. Again, like I said, this is not what you would want to do with position relative. So let's take it off. So again, static is the normal flow of your document from top to bottom. Relative is basically the same thing. It's basically the same thing. The only thing now is that from its position, you can move things around, which normally you wouldn't do if you are using position of relative. So the question now is, what positioning would we now use if we want to move things, really move things around? What positioning would we use? Well, we still have three more positionings. We've done static, we've done relative. Now we have absolute, fixed, and sticky. So let's start with absolute. All right, so let's say this number one, I want the positioning to be absolute. Let's see what happens. So absolute, and then let's check our site. So as you can see, the second item, which is this red, is now away from the page. Now, it's very hard to see because it's actually on top of something here. So let me comment this position. Let me just comment this guy out so that you understand. So let me comment out one and go back to the page. You'll see that there is green here. Yeah. So if I add it back, you'd see that the green is still there, but the only difference is that this guy is on top of it. So the green, what we have done is we have taken away number one, which is this red, away from the flow of the document. So the document is saying there is nothing here. That is why green now took over its position, because to the document there is nothing here. Now, if I use the top left, right, bottom thing I spoke about, let's say we go top 0, for instance. Red will start at the very top of the page, at the very, very top, without any spacing. Yeah. So look at your green here. It's still here. It's still behaving as if there's nothing, even though on the document there's actually red here. There's actually one here, which is red, which will give a background color of red. But because of we have made it absolute, we took it away from the flow of the document. So the document will just behave as if there is nothing like that here. Yeah. So, but what if, okay, so it is going to be absolutely positioned to the parent, to the most relative document or element rather. So that one, all these things I'm saying is like BB grammar. Just know that once you make an item absolute, it's just going to go to the nearest relative parent and stick there. And presently, the nearest parent that it has is the HTML. And when we go to our file, our index, this this tag here, this opening and closing tag here is called HTML. So that is where this position is going to go and stay at the top there. Yeah. But if you want to change that, let's say for instance you want it to be at the top of the parent here. You want it to be at the top of this guy, this container that we gave the color of teal, I think. Yeah, we gave it the color of teal. That's the container containing all the elements inside. So how do we make this guy to start at the top of this container instead of at the top of HTML? How you do that is you will now go to the container and change the position of the container to relative. Now, once you make the container relative, then instead of the I starting at the very top here of the HTML, it's going to start at where the parent is. Yes. If I say, okay, instead of 0, I want it to be 10 px away from where the parent container is, or the closest relative container, which is this, is, then I'll say 10 px. And now it's now 10 px away from this guy we set as the relative or the parent container. The relative container, rather, not the parent. Mind you, you can't set these guys as relative containers because they all have the same level. So we made one absolute. So we can't come to two now and make this one relative for this one to start. No, because they're on the same level. So the relative container has to be a parent, one of the parent containers. Can be body, can be div, can be HTML, blah blah blah. But it has to be something that it is inside, not something that they're on the same level. That's something you have to have in mind. You can also move this guy to the right. So we did left. We can say, okay, no, we did top. You can still come here and say, okay, left, I want you to be, let me say 100%. Let me see how that will work. All right, so we've moved it to the left. If we say right 0, for instance, right 0. Okay, that did not work as I thought it would work. Let's just say right 10 px, for instance. So it's moving it away from the right 10 px. Yeah, for say 50 px. Moving it away from the right 50 px. For say 50%. Yeah, so you're moving it away from the right 50% and all of that. So anyway, that's how you move things. So normally, if you have a container and you want something to be somewhere in that container, like you want to position it somewhere in that container, first of all, make sure that whatever you want to position inside that container must have to be inside. So the container would have to be like the parent container, sorry, and you have to make the parent container relative. And now that item you want to move around that container, that parent container, you make it absolute. And then using top, left, right, and bottom, you position it where exactly you want it to be positioned. That's as much as we're going to take for absolute. Now let's say we want to move. So we want to move now to the fourth one, which is fixed. So how fixed works is it's let's try it. Let's see. So now I'm still going to leave this container as position of relative. Let's see if this guy would start in this container. So I'm going to give it a position of fixed. So you see, and then I'm going to make it top of 0. Let's see what happens. So fixed started at the very top of the page. Guys, note the difference. Fixed started at the very top of the page, irrespective of the fact that the container was made, this container that it's inside was made relative. This is relative here, but it does not care. So fixed positioning does not care about whatever. It just cares about the HTML or the viewport or whatever. So that's what it cares about. So whenever you make something fixed, just know that. Oh, let me take off this right. I don't like this right being here. Where are you? Where are you? Fixed. Okay, where did I add this stuff? Okay, let's just leave it. It's fine. So whenever we make our container fixed, just know that it's going to start at the very top of the page. So if I were to make our container, let's give it a height of 200 vr or vh rather, so that we can scroll. So if I scroll, we see that it does not move. So every other thing on the page moves, but a fixed item does not move. I have to make this left of 0 as well, so it's placed correctly. Okay, all right. So I have to, sorry, let's go back. So if you scroll on the page, you see that it is still at the top. So it does not scroll along with whatever is on the page. Absolutely positioned items is not like that. Let's go back to absolute and let's say absolute. Like we know it's going to start from the container because the container is relative. But if I scroll, it will move together with the container. It will move together with the container. But fixed would remain where you have fixed it. It doesn't move. It's just there. So this is what is often used in menus. So when you create a menu and you have like a container, you have all the whole menu items inside, home, about, blah blah blah. Then the main container holding all the navigation menus, you make it fixed. Give it a position of fixed, and then you set it so that it starts at the top, at the very very top. Now I've made a little bit of error again. This stuff that I always forget to do. Yeah, so let me just make the box size into the box. All right, okay, all right, so that's fine now. So this, guys, so that's how fixed work. Fixed will always get stuck at the top. Of course, you can always move it around. Now we made it 0, so if you want to make it 10, for instance, we want to make this guy 10 px, it will just be 10 px away from the top. But let's make it big so it's very visible. Let's make it like 50 px. So it's going to be 50 px away from the top. Wherever you have placed it, that is where it's going to be. If you scroll, it will just remain where you have placed it. So that's the difference between fixed and absolute. What I want you to remember from this is that fixed item does not care about whether a container that it's inside is relative or not. It does not care. What it cares about is there is the HTML, there is the viewport which starts from up here. So anywhere you are placing anything, just make sure, just know that as long as you are making use of fixed, you are placing it starting from wherever the viewport is, which is HTML, which is the top here, and all that. So that is that about that. There's also something I forgot to say. The whole absolute stuff that we did before, we made this guy relative so that the absolutely positioned item will start from the relative, which is the container. But you can also this can also be an absolutely positioned item. This can also be a fixed item as well. So what I'm saying is you do not necessarily have to be it does not necessarily have to be relative for it to work when you are using absolute here. This can also be absolute also, and can also be fixed. It would also work. Yeah, but why we just use relative is because most times the item you want to place things inside, you don't need it to change. Actually, it's not an item that changes, it's just there. So you're just using it as a reference for the item you want to place things alongside, like beside it or on top of it or something. Yeah. So that's why most times you would see relative. I hardly see the main container to be absolute, and then another item is also absolute to it. I hardly see it, but it happens. But so just know that that is a possibility anyway. So we've spoken about static, relative, absolute, fixed, and sticky. Sorry, fixed. That's where we stopped. Um, let's do something on sticky. Sticky is like a mix of both relative and fixed. Like a mix of both relative and fixed. For me to show you how sticky works, I would need to change a couple of things in this structure, in the file structure. So just bear with me. Let me write a little bit of code. So what I want to do is I want to create a menu quickly, and then I would so let's just quickly create a menu. So let's say this is the let's just use semantic tags here. So we have a nav, then we have four menu items. Uh so let's just create a span that has four menu items, and this one will be home, this one would be about, this one would be blog. Sorry about that. Okay, this one will be blog, and this guy here would be contact us. All right, so this is our menu here. So this is this guy. So let's just quickly style it a little. So let's just say we have a nav, and our nav is going to be, we have a display of flex because we want things side by side. Justify content center. There's no space between row, and then align item center. Okay. All right. I would I would need a bit of padding there because that was like too much. Okay. So give me one rem, two rem. Okay. All right. So I mean I think it's too wide. So let me just give it another div. So let's create a div here. Let's give the div a class of container. And then here we're going to give our container a width of 700 px, and then margin of 0 to, so everything is centered. Okay, all right, that looks better. So let's just style the nav items. So we have inside the nav we have span. So the spans, I want to give them a font size of 24 px, and then a color of just black. I think just a shade of black is fine. Okay, all right. So guys, this is what we have now, and we are done actually. We're done. I think I will just create. Let me create. Okay, let me just create a div here. and I'll call this div. I'll give it a class of background image. Um, so let's go online. Let's search for an image on Google. Let's just say, of course, back to Luffy. It has to be Luffy, guys. Come on. So let's go to images. Let's get something portrait that would do a better job of demonstrating what I want to demonstrate. Mind you, this whole thing I'm doing is just to show you how sticky works. So this is fine. I think this is fine. Yeah. Oh, come on. I don't like classes being too long. So guys, just bear with me. Um, Luffy, what's up? I know it's very small. I want it to load so that it will load properly. It will be big. Yeah, but mine, I don't even know if it's my network. Just unnecessarily slow. So guys, the whole sticky menu stuff is like really, really, really cool. Yeah, it's one of the coolest positioning you know of. Although most times you may not. I mean, it's good to know, Sha. It's good to know how it works and all of that. But I think most times you would be making use of fixed many times. Yeah. Okay, so this is 700 by 438, which is small, but we have to make use of it, please, because of our time. We have all day. So close. Yeah, this is fine. Save. We're just going to open the folder called position, create an image, an assets folder, assets, and then name this Luffy. Okay, all right. So that's that. Okay, now so let's go back to our file. This BG image, I'm going to target BG image, and then I'm going to give it a background image. Sorry, background rather, background of URL. We have an assets folder. Sorry, we have an assets folder. Inside assets folder, we have Luffy. Are you for real? I did not even save Luffy inside the assets. Okay. All right. So we have Luffy. All right. So I think that's fine. All right. So that's the background image of that. Let's just give it this a height of 200 pixels. Let's see. Okay. Let's just say background size. Background size. Let's say cover. Okay. Let's give it a width of 500 px. Sorry, height rather. Sorry, I don't care about the width actually. Height. Okay, that's too much. 400. 400 is fine. All right. So lastly, after the whole span blah 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 going on here, I want to create a div and I want to add items inside. So I just create a p tag, and inside the p tag I want lorem ipsum. Yeah. So I'm just going to copy this guy and do it like 4 times. 4 times. One, two, three, four. Let's see. Can we scroll now? Yeah, we can scroll, but we can't scroll enough. So I'll do it 2 more times. I want to be able to scroll. Okay, one more time actually, and then just come here and increase the size of the p tag. So the p tag, I'm going to make the font size to be 24 px. Let's see. All right, so now we can scroll, 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 scroll. So there's something I also want to do. I want to give the nav a color, so it's very clear. So the background color of steel teal, yeah, steel teal, and then the color of white. Okay, that will not work. So it will only work. I think it will work here. Okay, it didn't work because of this guy here. That's why it didn't work. I targeted the span. already has a color. So yeah, this should work now. So give it. All right, please let's not start too much. So this is what we have. This is what we have here. So how does sticky come into place now? If I targeted the nav, so how sticky works is it moves to an extent and then it stops. Like I said, it has a positioning of relative. Now after, then at some point it becomes fixed. So it's the combination of both of them. So for instance, if I say, guys, give me a second, let me answer. Let me um let me answer the door. Somebody's knocking. Make sure you close the door when you enter inside. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so if I scroll, I want to scroll to the extent that once I get to the nav bar, it will stop. The nav bar will stop scrolling, and this content will still scroll. So that's what we want to do. Normally, the nav bar normally is always the first thing, but sometimes you may have something before the nav bar, something like this, something just cool, just playful and all of that. So it's something you can accomplish with sticky. So let's try something. Let's go to the nav bar now, and we're going to change the position to sticky. Yeah. All right. So the nav bar is sticky now. Let's scroll. You see, nothing happened. Nothing happened. It didn't stick. It didn't stick because we did not tell it when to stick. So for instance, if I come here and I say top is 0, for instance, so I'm saying once you get to 0, stop. So for this nav bar, mind you, I am targeting the nav bar. So once I scroll and I get to 0, it stops. And once I scroll, other things still scroll, but it is stuck at the top. And when you scroll up, yeah. So that is how sticky works. So sticky is like, this is where you should end, and yeah, once you leave that viewpoint, it's no longer in 0, so you can now scroll it. But once it gets to 0, top of 0, it stops scrolling. So that's how that works. I would have loved to give you one final example, but it will take time. But should I still go ahead, guys? Because our time is actually off. Time is up. Time is up. Do you guys agree? Everybody agree? Fine, let me come online. Let me check. If you agree, just raise up your hands, please. If you agree that we should like still do one. Okay, all right. Okay, that's fine. So let me quickly do that. So I want to create. Let me take this all these guys off. I want to create something really simple, I hope. So definitely there will be a container. So let me just close this guy. Um, so we have, I want to create I want to create 4 different containers. So I'll create 4 different divs. Let me give them a bit of spacing. And you guys should check like the way I write my code though. Like any item that is inside a div is always indented inside. It's something that you should know. You should know how to write clean code. So your code will just be like somebody will see your code and will just like the code, that this code is cool, it looks good. So I'm going to give them the same class. I'll just call them item header. Item header. I'll give all the whole divs the same class. Item header. Sorry, it should be a class. Item header. Let me just copy everything, please. Don't have time. Don't have time. I would have battery. Okay. All right. So yeah, item header. So inside this item header, how do we do this? How do we do this? Okay, I shouldn't have done what I did, but it's fine. I mean, it's fine. There's no problem. So inside of each of them, I'm going to create another div, and I'm going to call this div item. Yeah, item. Now inside this item, I'm going to create a p tag, and then I'm going to write lorem inside. So lorem is just a shortcut to like have dummy stuff inside your document. That's basically what lorem is. So I'm going to paste these guys inside this, all of them. Like it's just going to be the same thing every each of them. Once you get this video, you can practice on your own and see some of the things I did and how to replicate it. So yeah, so this is what we currently have. We currently have these guys. So in this header, in this stuff we call header, I'm just going to give them. I'm just going to write a h2 tag inside and then call this cars. Call this. Okay, let me just copy this h2. Call this h2. So I'm going to call this cars. Call this clothes. Call this shoes. Call this ties. Whatever. Okay, all right. So let's just tie the items. So these are these are the headings. So let's just style it a little. We don't need all of this. Though I think I like the container, so the container should stay. Sorry. Um. Yeah. Anyway, it's fine. I mean, it's fine. So you go off. Sorry, I like the p tag. So stay. So you go off. Let's see what we have. Okay. All right. So we want to style the item. Item. Okay. We just want it to stand out. That's why we're styling it. So item, I want you to have a background color of teal. Your color should be white. Your font size should be 30 pixels. Yeah. So this is cool. So what we want now is we want when we scroll, we want this guy to remain once these items are what is being scrolled. Now once we leave this guy, once we are done with this guy, everything goes off and then this guy takes over at the top and all of that. Okay, before then, I would like to, the whole. I don't know how I took this stuff off, but like this is very, very important. This whole code I'm doing here, margin zero, padding zero, box size and border box. For those of you who don't still understand what is the need of that stuff, I would suggest you guys go and learn it. I'll suggest you guys go and learn it. Go and read about it. So let me give a H1 here and say this is the title of this page. Then give a little bit of just lorem text inside here. Yeah. Then yeah. Okay. Let's just leave it like that. So what we want to do again, mind you, is once we scroll, we get to this guy, it stops scrolling. Uh this other items, of course, will keep scrolling, but this guy will stop scrolling and all of that. So how do we do that? So the same thing we did basically. So all you have to do is just give it a position of relative, sorry, sticky, and then you give it a top of 0. So let's see how that would work. I want to give this container a I want to give this container height, a height of 200 vh, so we can scroll, it off. So I don't know if you guys can see. Okay, let me give these guys in like more content. So let me copy this and then I will come here, and I'm holding an alt and pressing my, like selecting that section and then paste. Yeah. So I also paste it. I didn't paste it here. So this, yeah, I want more content. Then I'll just give it a bit of padding bottom, or margin bottom rather, margin bottom of 0.5 frame, or let's make it 1 rem. All right. So okay. So this is what we have now. So mind you, once you get to this guy stops scrolling. The content will still scroll. It's scrolling. It's scrolling. Then it gets to this guy, it goes off, and then this is scrolling, scrolling. It gets to this guy. Oh, this. Let's make this a little bit bigger so we can scroll a lot. Okay, all right. So scroll, scroll. It comes here. It comes here. It comes here. Now, why these things are not matching? I don't like how it is. Is because of this margin button we did. So let me just take it off. So let me just take it off so that it's very close. So before it moves, like it matches, like it touches itself before it moves. You see, it touches itself, then it moves to the top, touches itself, it moves to the top, it touches itself, then it moves. So a question you may be asking is why when once this guy gets here, why does it leave for this guy? Well, how sticky works is it works with its parent container. So once the parent container leaves that view, then the fixed, normally fixed does not move. Like once you're moving, irrespective of how many times you roll, your fixed container is always there, just looking at you where you fixed it. But sticky is different because once its parents here is the item header. So once this item header, you leave it, like it's out of the page, then it would leave. Then it will no longer be fixed. It will revert back to being relative. So that's why. So once you scroll to this guy, and the the parent container, like the parent now is out of the page. That div, the parent div is out of the page. Then it will leave and make way for the other person, and that's that. So, I mean, that's that's that about positioning. We've spoken about again types of positioning. We have static, which is just your regular flow of the document. We have relative, the same thing. The only difference is you can use top, left, which normally you don't even use with relative. Then absolute is you are positioning it absolutely as it relates to the closest relative item or absolute item or fixed item. So if nothing that is if the parent is does not have any of this positioning, then it will just revert back to the HTML and stick to the HTML. Why fixed does not care about any relative or any absolute or whatever. It just cares about the HTML, the viewport, and sticks itself to the viewport. Why sticky, like we said, is a combination of both fixed and relative positioning. Yeah. So that's hopefully it was clear. I know that once you watch the video, positioning is not really simple. Yeah, but once you practice and watch the video, I think it will be a little bit easier for you to understand. But that's as much as I would like to take on the class. If you have questions, you can ask.